What's good, YouTube? Reacting to 3 really scary true Wendy's horror stories animated. Like and sub to become my own liner. Follow the Twitch. Comment for show. Let's get it. Why are they making that? It's a strange sound. The following stories were inspired by or loosely based on the actual events or locals of persons living or dead. The chilling Wendy's incident.
This happened to me years ago, but it still affects me to this day. It happened when I was working at Wendy's, going to college classes during the day and working there at night. I didn't mind the work at Wendy's. It was never very busy during my shifts. The restaurant closed down at the beginning of the night, so all I had to worry about were the drive-thru orders. Unless it was a Friday or Saturday night, which was our busiest days, as expected. The late night only had 2 people working. One person to take the orders and someone like me to cook them. Naturally, this meant I knew all of my coworkers pretty well, as they were the only people to talk to during downtime. I was okay with all of them except this one guy named Dylan. This guy was a creepy-looking weirdo.
Who the fuck they hire? I can't wait for them to describe Dylan because, I mean, y'all set yourselves up if Dylan did anything to anybody if this who y'all hired.
He had wacky-looking hair like Rick from Rick and Morty. He didn't seem to care about hygiene either. He gave me the creeps every time I saw him. I knew my shift was going to be hell every time he was my coworker for the night. I would say that he was super into me, but it's really more like he was dying to get into the pants.
This be my biggest fear in the world. This why I be when I walk into a restaurant, and I don't be doing it every time, but when I be walking into a restaurant, I do be peeping like people like this. Exactly how he just said, like everything he just described dude with, how they just showed dude turning around, he's slapping a burger with the sauce and shit, nigga putting his hand in the, man, they spitting in you type shit. Like, you don't be knowing who be doing what? Like, that be the crazy part, you don't be knowing who be doing what. Like, shit fucked up, man.
Of every girl he saw. He came on to every single girl that he took orders from in the drive-thru.
They be like
it
that
was
too.
Slightly amusing to see him get shut down 99% of the time.
Be the ones,
but
no
it
drip.
Wasn't so funny knowing that I was next. He truly had no concept of boundaries or empathy, and he only saw women as objects. He asked me out 1,000,000 times, and I declined every single time. But the guy always thought there'd be a chance I'd reconsider, because he never stopped hitting on me. Things only got worse. The longer I worked at Wendy's, Dylan...
Why they do like this? Ain't no way dude was looking like this now.
Dylan started getting more brazen and started suggesting we have quickies at work.
Look at it first.
Dylan started getting more brazen and started suggesting we have quickies at work. He would try to convince me to sleep with him multiple times a night, and each time he suggested a different spot, either the bathroom or the cooler or the kitchen. And a few times he tried to get me to do it right under the drive-thru window. I tried to be more stern and tell him that was never going to happen, but it was like I could never get it through his head that I didn't like him. I considered reporting him to the manager after every night I worked with him, but I never did. I was too scared of how he would react. The only thing worse than someone being creepy toward me was someone being mad at me. It went on like this for months, until one night, I had had enough. Dylan was absolutely egregious with his advances that night. He knew I was a timid person, and he was taking full advantage of it. He knew I hadn't told anyone about anything he did. At one point during the shift, he came up to the grill and tried to grab my hand while saying one of his usual pickup lines. I swatted his hand away and almost slapped him across the face with the spatula, but I held myself back and cussed him out.
Don't touch me.
I don't know why you did.
Just leave me alone. God, you're such a creep.
Wow, someone's a little spicy tonight. Spicy like the spicy chicken sandwich. But I bet you taste better, sweetheart.
Dylan shrugged it off after seeing a customer come up to the intercom, so he went back to the window. A couple hours passed, and Dylan was oddly quiet. I started to think that I had finally done it. I had finally gotten Dylan off my back. Gone were the days of having to hide from him in the bathroom and dreading when there was no work to distract him. Later, past midnight, we had some downtime. I noticed I was low on some things that I would definitely need to get through the rest of my shift, so I went into the cooler to get some inventory. I was crouched down with my back to the door, looking for the right thing when I heard the door open and close again. I froze for a moment, as I was genuinely shitting bricks.
When I was working at Taco Bell, they used to say when you go get the meat, hold the door open, 'cause it locks if it just closes. Scariest even saying that to somebody, 'cause I used to just be like, fuck it sometime, but I only worked 2 days anyway, so those 2 days, it was easy to say fuck it, you know?
My heart began racing instantly. I didn't want to turn around. I knew it had to be Dylan. I then slowly turned my head around and saw Dylan standing over me, his face deranged like a psycho.
What are you doing here? You should get back to the window.
Chill out, baby. I've been waiting a long time for this, so I'll make it quick. He pinned me to the floor as I screamed for help.
Help! Somebody help me! Help me!
Dylan was a nasty little bitch.
After a few moments of sheer horror, I managed to kick and scream and fight my way out of his grasp. I was able to hit him in a vulnerable spot and get away, bursting through the cooler door, running to the customers in line for help. They called the police and Dylan was later arrested. He kept saying it was a misunderstanding and that everything was consensual, but there were quite a few factors that made it obvious to the cops that he was lying. Mainly the fact that he had covered the camera in the cooler with a box, as well as a few other cameras in the building. He was clearly anticipating what he did to me. I was lucky enough that it didn't get as far as
start acting a little bit weird. Just get out of there before you
still
do
feel the
anything
scars
extra
from
like
the
this.
horrifying night. The story was inspired by a horrific incident regarding a Wendy's employee who was arrested after a forcible altercation with a female coworker inside the fast food restaurant's cooler. The alleged incident occurred on a Sunday morning in Pompano Beach, Florida. A 25-year-old man named Tressel Huffman followed the woman into a cooler and proceeded to force himself on her as she tried to push him off.
What niggas trying to get the girl to the cooler at Wendy's? What is with that?
The incident only came to an end when the suspect failed to get it up. The female worker was then able to break free. She ran across the street and called the cops. After reviewing surveillance footage, authorities said that they witnessed Huffman place a box in front of the camera that faced the cooler. The manager of the location told detectives that all employees are aware that blocking cameras is strictly forbidden. According to the warrant, Huffman was inconsistent in his interview with the police and claimed the encounter was consensual. Huffman was later arrested and charged with the attack, along with kidnapping, false imprisonment, and battery.
Shit, this
He
was
was
just
taken
the
to jail
actual.
and is being held without bond.
This was just the actual joint, the actual story. True Wendy's horror story 2. Let's get it. The Wendy's drive-through surprise. Okay, so that was the actual story. Damn.
This happened back when I used to work the night shift at Wendys. My days started out fairly busy, but always slows down after some time. By midnight, when we close the restaurant and switch to drive-through only, it's usually pretty dead. I would usually use the last couple of hours of the shift to clean up before closing, but I often finished everything I needed to do pretty quickly, so I slacked off on my phone a lot. My coworkers are all the same way, so nobody gets in trouble. Nothing interesting ever happens late at night, so it gets really boring. It was business as usual. It had been 10 minutes since anyone ordered food. That is until someone finally came up to the drive-thru.
Hey, are you by yourself?
Their voice sounded weird over the intercom.
If that's the first thing I hear, are you by yourself? No, the whole crew here. It's the first thing I'm saying, the whole crew here. Are you
It was definitely a man, but there was something up with him. Instead of ordering right away, he asked if anyone inside was celebrating a birthday. I didn't answer his question and asked him again what he wanted to order. My shift was almost over, so I didn't feel like taking his order, let alone have any conversation with him. Unfortunately, the guy wouldn't stop. No matter what I said to brush it off and get straight to the point, he kept asking about birthdays. I firmly kept reiterating no, but that wasn't the end of it. The guy then asked if anyone inside knew anybody else who was celebrating a birthday. I annoyingly told him I didn't know anybody else. That's when he asked me to go check with my coworkers and see. That was where I finally drew the line and told him I was not going to do that. Suddenly, the man shouted at me, demanding I do what he said. That's when I lost my shit and snapped at the guy, telling him to order or F off. Surprisingly, that worked. He backed down and apologized, though it didn't feel like a genuine apology. He ended up ordering some food and a soda, then he pulled up to the window in a pickup truck. By then, I had already made his drink. I opened the window and handed it to him, then opened my hand to ask him for payment. I hadn't even looked him in the eyes yet, as I was annoyed from the argument. But when I realized he wasn't putting anything in my hand, I looked up at him and saw the most disturbing face I had ever seen. The man looked like the creepiest weirdo ever. He looked like a zombie out of The Walking Dead. There was a huge smile plastered on his crusty face, but his eyes had a sinister look in them. He was the sort of person I would normally hesitate to even open the window for, had I been paying attention. What happened next was the most insane experience I have ever had at any job. Sir, can I see your card?
You don't need my card.
Well then, are you paying with cash?
No, you don't understand.
Sir, you have to pay or you won't be getting your food.
Don't worry, I have something for you. Just wait a second.
Hey, where are you going?
Just hold on, I'll be right there.
What the hell? Listen, I don't know what you're getting, but if it has to fit in the back of a truck, you can't buy a Baconator with it. What the hell is he doing?
Trust me, you're gonna love this. I know you said it wasn't your birthday, but I got a little present for you. There's an alligator trying to eat me! Somebody help!
He ain't never let a nigga throw an alligator through a drive-through window. This better not be true.
You bastard! I'm gonna turn this alligator into Crocs and kick the shit out of you with it!
I was stranded on that counter for almost an hour, even after I called 911. The gator had it out for me. I knew if I dangled my foot for just a second, I wouldn't have it anymore. When they arrived, the cops didn't want to deal with the gator, so animal control was called in. They finally captured the gator and took it away, ending the ordeal. The cops used the security footage to track down the man who threw the gator and arrested him. He told them he was just playing a joke and thought it was hilarious, but nobody agreed with him for obvious reasons. I nearly had my face bitten off. In my nightmares ever since that night, I'm never lucky enough to get away from that alligator in time.
He allowed that to happen. He argued with the nigga, and then you allow him to throw a gator in a drive-through window, and
This story was inspired by a terrifying incident regarding a 24-year-old man named Joshua James, who was arrested and charged with assault with a deadly weapon after he threw a 3.5-foot alligator through a Palm Beach County Wendys drive-through window. He's also charged with illegally possessing an alligator and petty theft. Jail records show he was released on $6,000 bail. He was ordered to have no contact with animals. A wildlife officer said in his report that James drove his pickup truck to the window at 1:20 a.m. on October 11th after an employee handed James his drink. That's when he threw the alligator through the window and drove off. No one was hurt. The wildlife officer captured the alligator and released it into the wild. James was later tracked down through video surveillance and a purchase at a neighboring convenience store. The culprit, James, later mentioned that he had found the alligator on the side of the road and put it into his truck, and then did what he did. James's mother, Linda James, told news outlets that her son's actions were just a stupid prank.
Yeah, alright. Attempted fucking murder. This nigga threw Godzilla at somebody. The fuck? I don't know if I want to watch this
I was at home watching TV and mindlessly scrolling on my phone when I suddenly got the munchies. I was hungry as hell and didn't have anything to eat. But that's when I remembered the hype about Wendy's launching the new Krabby Patty. And there was a Wendy's not too far from my place. So I got dressed and started walking over to satisfy my craving. When I walked in, I was shocked by the sight of the freakiest, most gigantic woman I have ever seen working at the register. If Wendy's was serving Krabby Patties, this woman was Miss Puff after a boating accident. I never seen her there in all the times I went to that Wendy's before. Her skin was so wrinkly that it looked like there was grease flowing down the crevices of her face. She must have had a stroke after eating the entire stock of Krabby Patties and Baconators. Things only got worse as I walked up to her. The woman had these creepy, bulgy, lazy eyes that didn't even look at me, and her smile was completely crooked. She looked dead, like an old dementia patient that wandered off and got hit by a car. After staring at her uncomfortably for a few minutes, I told myself I was just freaked out because of my particular state of mind at the time, but I eventually placed my order.
Hi. I'd like a Krabby Patty meal, please.
Good choice. Do you know the secret formula?
I don't know.
Didn't this joint just come out? The SpongeBob joint? Didn't it just come out? I think.
Just want something to eat.
I'm sure you're used to eating something with crabs. You want anything to drink with that?
Lady, just get me my Krabby Patty.
Wait here. We're a little short-staffed tonight, so I'll be with your Krabby Patty.
The short encounter with her seemed to drag on forever. A lot of things were off about her. I was just glad it was over. Once I paid and got my receipt, I found a seat nearby. Nobody else was in the restaurant even though it wasn't that late. For some reason, it took forever for my food to be ready. Maybe about 10 or 15 minutes of scrolling on my phone later, the nasty old lady finally came back.
10 to 15 minutes ain't. You must ain't waited before for real, shit.
To the counter with my tray. I quickly walked up and snatched it. I then sat down and went right for the Krabby Patty, undoing its container and taking a huge bite. About 3 seconds into chewing, a horrible pungent flavor spoiled the whole bite. I kept chewing for a second, thinking maybe it was supposed to be the tang of some kind of tartar sauce they were using. But it just got worse. It was like piss, battery acid, and snot all mixed together. Before I knew it, the rotten flavor triggered my gag reflex, and I vomited all over the table. I couldn't stop dry heaving and choking on bile. I collapsed out of the chair and crawled to the table. They're like piss.
Shorty served him a Glock Dookie sandwich.
Battery acid and snot all mixed together. Before I knew it, supposed to be the tang of some kind of tartar sauce they were using, but it just got worse. It was like piss, battery acid, and snot all mixed together. Before I knew it, the rotten flavor triggered my gag reflex, and I vomited all over the table. I couldn't stop dry heaving and choking on bile. I collapsed out of the chair and crawled to the bathroom, where I fought for my life. Once I could finally walk again, I stormed out of the bathroom and slammed my fists on the counter, demanding to see the woman who served me when nobody was brave enough to answer me. I lost control and hopped over the counter. I searched everywhere for her, but all I could find was a sad, cowering fry cook and an innocent-looking girl at the drive-thru. Neither of them seemed like the type to lace my food, and the fry cook even
He said it seemed like the type to lace my food.
Told me where the woman was hiding. She locked herself in the office. So I ran to the door and started trying to beat it down.
What did you do to my food, you nasty bitch? Come out here, you Mrs. Pump lookalike. I'm gonna cave your skull in.
I eventually accepted the fact that I wouldn't be able to reach her, which was unfortunate because in that moment, all I wanted to do was drag her by the hair and shove her head into the toilet I had just puked my soul into. Instead, I took a moment to calm down, then I called the police. I didn't know exactly what she had put in my food, so I claimed she had poisoned me. They arrested her, and in her questioning, she was apparently proud to admit what she had put in not just my food, but in many other people's food. She was substituting the sauce on the Krabby Patties with the putrid, diseased discharge and juices from her worn-out stinky well downstairs. To think the toxic fluids of that disgusting woman's crotch were in my mouth, that I chewed on it and absorbed it to any degree. It makes me sick to this day.
No.
Now I know
No.
chewed on to the diseased food.
No.
She was substituting the sauce on the Krabby Patties with the putrid, diseased discharge and juices from her worn-out stinky well
No.
downstairs. To think the toxic fluids of that disgusting woman's crotch were in my mouth, that I chewed on it and absorbed it to any degree.
No.
It makes me sick to this day. Now I know why it took my food or toxic food.
No. 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 She deserved life. She deserved life. She deserved life. No. Oh my gosh. Oh my Lord. No. 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 She deserved life.
She was substituting the sauce on the Krabby Patties with the putrid, diseased discharge and juices from her worn-out stinky well downstairs. To think the toxic fluids of that disgusting woman's crotch were in my mouth, that I chewed on it and absorbed it to any degree. It makes me sick to this day. Now I know why it took my food so long to come out. Because she took it to the bathroom and spent 10 minutes extracting unhealthy amounts of discharge from
Oh my
herself,
fucking
by
goodness,
only
man.
God knows how, and smeared it all over my Krabby Patty.
Oh my gosh,
Unfortunately, there wasn't much punishment for her crime. She was fired from Wendy's and slapped with a fine of a few $1,000s. I wish she would rot in jail. My Krabby Patty. Unfortunately, there wasn't much punishment for her crime. She was fired from Wendy's and slapped with a fine of a few $1,000s. I wish she would rot in jail for what she did to me and all the other undeserving people who just wanted a nice burger. She's a sick, perverted, heaping waste of flesh.
She admittedly said she did it to him, and not only him, but multiple other individuals. And she got
$1,000. I wish she would rot in jail for from Wendy's and slapped with a fine of a few $1,000s for her crime.
fired from Wendys and slapped with a few fine of $1,000. What the fuck?
She was fired from Wendy's
got
and
it.
slapped with a fine of a few $1,000s. I wish she would rot in jail for what she did to me and all the other undeserving people who just wanted a nice burger.
That's fucked
She's a
up.
sick, perverted, heaping waste of flesh,
Nah, that
and I
shit
hope
wild,
karma
yeah.
takes care of her. I just hope nobody ever has to take that secret formula I had that night. This story was inspired by an alleged incident regarding a former Wendy's employee named Lakeisha Hunter, who was arrested for contaminating a customer's hamburger with her bodily fluids. The repulsive incident allegedly
Why?
took place in August of 2000.
Why? Of 2005?
2005 at a Wendy's fast food restaurant. It was rumored that Hunter was arrested and led away in handcuffs after arguing with customer Lachey Jones over their child's father not coming to see her baby. Hunter then went to the back of the restaurant and used her quote-unquote discharge in place of mayonnaise on Lachey's Bacon Cheeseburger Deluxe. The two women who share the same father have been at each other's throats for a while. Lachey claims that she had the guy first and that Hunter ruined her family.
craziest story I've ever heard. What the fuck they had going on in 2005 was she ain't getting no jail time. What the fuck?